Bunia, Congo. She had been orphaned by a brutal conflict, but the 14-year-old Congolese girl found refuge in a camp protected by United Nations peacekeepers. The camp should have been safe the day she was raped. A delegation from the UN was paying a visit, and her grandmother had left her in charge of her siblings. That was the day, the girl says, that a Pakistani peacekeeper slipped inside their home and assaulted her in front of the other children. But that was not the end of her story. Even though she reported the rape, the girl never got any help from the UN. She did become pregnant, however, and had a baby. If the UN sexual abuse crisis has an epicenter, it is the Congo, where the scope of the problem first emerged 13 years ago, and where promised reforms have most clearly fallen short. Of the 2,000 sexual abuse and exploitation complaints made against UN peacekeepers and personnel worldwide over the past 12 years, more than 700 occurred in Congo, the Associated Press found. The embattled African nation is home to the U.N.'s largest peacekeeping force, which costs a staggering $1 billion a year. The rape teenagers experience is grimly emblematic of the underbelly of UN peacekeeping, and the organization as a whole. During a year-long investigation, the AP found that despite promising reform for more than a decade, the UN failed to meet many of its pledges to stop the abuse or help victims, some of whom have been lost to a sprawling bureaucracy. Cases have disappeared or been handed off to the peacekeepers' home countries, which often do nothing with them. The attack on the 14-year-old was so brazen it still haunts the UN's top human rights official more than a decade after hearing the girl's story. What on earth would it take for this soldier not to do it, to have all the heads of the UN together, and he still does it? Asked Zaid Rad al-Hussein, a member of the delegation that heard the girl's testimony in 2004. 1 year later, he helped write a landmark report intended to curb sexual abuse and exploitation within the UN system. With rare exceptions, victims interviewed by the AP received no help. Instead, many were banished from their families for having mixed-race children, who also are shunned, becoming a second generation of victims. The AP even found a girl who was raped by two peacekeepers. She gave birth to two babies by the time she was 14. To this day, the sexual violence by UN peacekeepers and personnel continues. Congo already accounts for nearly 1/3 of the 43 allegations made worldwide in 2017. William L. Swing was in charge of the Congo mission between May 2003 and January 2008, a period when abuse allegations swelled in a country that has been torn by dictatorship, civil war and unrest for the last half-century. "I take full responsibility for what happened," Swing told the AP. "I knew at the time the buck stopped with me." Swing said the UN at times made it clear he should be relieved of his duties. Instead, he was named the head of the UN's International Organization for Migration. Now, he sits on a new task force appointed to tackle the problem yet again. Swing insists the mistakes made during the early years of the Congo mission provided lessons that could shape new reforms. "You can never make someone who has been sexually violated whole," he said. "But you can give them a sense that the organization is trying to make them whole." The AP found that victims of car accidents involving UN vehicles are more likely to receive compensation than victims of rape. Why? Because those injuries were inflicted during the course of the UN workers' official duties. Although the UN has substantiated at least 41 cases of paternity worldwide since 2010, it can cite only one instance in which a paternity payment was made, according to online records of allegations. The AP independently confirmed a second paternity payment to a Haitian woman earlier this year. Justice is even more elusive because the cases get referred to the alleged perpetrators' home countries. Even after a UN investigation discovered a 3-year child sex ring involving Sri Lankan peacekeepers in Haiti, Sri Lanka prosecuted no one, the AP's investigation revealed. Yet at the yearly UN General Assembly gathering in New York, Sri Lanka this past week was named to the UN's circle of leadership for the next reform effort. Poor record keeping has been a major obstacle to reform. The UN had no record of the 14-year-old orphan who was raped on the day the top UN delegation visited. Officials did find another case with similar details, but said it was unsubstantiated at the time because the girl identified the wrong foreigner in a photo lineup. They did not know what became of the orphan. But in just 3 days last month, The AP found a woman whose story closely matched the one that Zaid, the UN human rights official, found so unforgettable. She was inebriated and living in POV,